Ramon, you remember when Donald Trump referred to South Africa as a giant shithole, and
Fake
nobody in
news.
the
Hold
US would.
on. Hold on. Sorry. Fact checker here. He just said some countries are shitholes. He didn't say South Africa in particular. He just said there are countries that are shitholes. And then the fact checker said he was talking about black countries. So just a fact check there. But yes, I do remember that, Byron. Sorry for interrupting.
Well, it was interesting that actually after that, very shortly after that, all form of, should we say, American South African relations seemed to kind of end. And when some people had asked Donald Trump what his views on South Africa was, he was like, "Yeah, dangerous place, wouldn't go there." And you may recall that even Julius Malema issued a statement which basically decried Donald Trump as being a racist because he never heard that one before. And I think it's rather interesting that following that, South Africa apparently had 7 wasted years. We love that number, seven. It's magical. And apparently, those 7 wasted years where the US and South Africa didn't engage has now come to an end. And this is a news article that the US Secretary of State apparently rocked up in South Africa with a huge entourage to further diplomatic relations, specifically around food insecurity, around the global pandemic, and around, how should we say, the green agenda, climate change.
Yep.
So apparently they came here to have a chat. What do you think of this?
Interestingly, I actually don't think the Americans actually came to South Africa because I don't see any mention of trans bathrooms or like LGBTQI plus ABC rights. So I'm starting to think that maybe this whole thing is fake news and it's all like a hologram, because the global American empire, exports three things: clean energy, global trans rights, and like bathrooms that everyone can use. Okay, but no. On a serious note, America's in a pickle. Let's be honest. They haven't really cared too much about Africa, except when they, try to shoot Muammar Gaddafi or something like that. That's the only time they actually give a
Mm.
shit. But other than that, they don't really care about Africa whatsoever, despite Africa being, quite good in terms of resources and things like that. Things that make, like electronic vehicles and cell phones, and, we have a lot of those things. So what has happened is, in this void, the Chinese and the Russians have come in to the continent and have basically said, we will exploit your minerals and we'll build you roads and ports and whatever, ostensibly to bring the minerals back to our homeland because it's easier for us. But, we'll pay for it, no stress. And that agreement has been in place for 20 years through the Belt and Road Initiative from China, and it's working out all right for the most part. For the most part. Now
Mm.
America's feeling left behind, and they are saying to themselves, the problem with Africa is that they think we're trying to dictate things to them, which is very true. The Americans love to tell other countries how to act. So now they're on this crusade to go around Africa to say that, listen, Washington will not dictate which choices you make as Africans. And in fact, no one should dictate what choices you should make as Africans, except, of course, you need windmills and you need clean energy and you need blah, 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 everything that we can provide for you. So it's a weird thing to say that we will not dictate what you need, but you have to use solar power to have
Yeah,
electricity.
it must follow the Paris Accord. But
Yeah.
I think it was interesting who we got to go meet with the US Secretary of State, which was Pandor, that much loved, proper, competent cadre of the of South Africa's. But with that aside, apparently she described the last 7 years of silence as quiet diplomacy. That's interesting. But which basically means
Quite
they never called, they never spoke. But
I'll use that on
she
all my
says,
exes now. I haven't heard from him for 10
yeah,
years. Like, it's just a quiet romance.
quite romantic, right? So she obviously says, the delegation from the US had 50 people, 50 representatives,
Well,
which she describes as necessary. So what did they actually talk about? I don't know. They basically said they believe in a strategic, and I'm quoting, this is her statement she issued afterwards. They believe in a strategic partnership based on common values, and it's the foundation of strengthening bilateral engagements between the two countries. Man, I'm not sure that ANC's common values align with anyone else's common values apart from, I don't know, what's a terrorist organization? One of them, maybe.
ISIS. No,
Yeah, I mean,
ISIS actually cares about rule of law. No, I'm running a blank here.
Me too. Maybe the drug cartels in the US and in Mexico. Maybe them.
Maybe, maybe they
But
run a
to actually
tighter ship
say
though.
like probably, and obviously they're more ruthless with failure than the ANC. So
Yeah.
maybe that's not a good analogy either. I don't know, man. Like when they use the words common values, I don't know what they're referring to.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, the ANC has released statements at the policy conference. They're like they against unbridled individualism and the moral decay of society and all that sort of stuff, which we sort of agree with for the most part, right? At least in spirit. But America is all about unbridled individualism and the gay lobby. So, what common features do we have with the Americans at this point? I actually don't know, especially on the sticky point of Russia, where South Africa says Russia did nothing wrong, sort of, and we will mediate. And everyone says, who the fuck are you? No one asked you to mediate.
Yeah.
And of course, the Americans are like very anti Russian. So, what did Naledi say about this fracas at the heart of these hearings?
Yes, I mean it was interesting that she also still said that she believed, and this she said to the American delegation, that she believes that diplomacy is still needed to solve, the Russian-Ukrainian war.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but apparently she then, and I'm quoting, this is from her statement, not mine. She says that they turn to what she believes holds the two countries apart in terms of engaging in investment. So, one would think that maybe it was property rights, expropriation without compensation. Maybe it was BEE and the fact that you have to give away a certain percentage of your company based on, the pencil test. Maybe it was things like that. Maybe it was South Africa's failing infrastructure. Maybe it was South Africa's inability to have electricity. It could be all of those. But no, apparently it was the tariffs on steel and aluminium. Apparently that's what stops them trading. What do you think of that?
Oh, really? I mean, interestingly, I mean, AGOA, which is the, I don't know, some trading. Oh, what are those things called? Trade deals, whatever they're called. AGOA is like we've had that in South Africa since W, since George Bush II. So it's like late
Mhm.
90s, early 2000s. And I think we get a lot more than we give on that side. So we get cheap poultry, cheap stuff, everything coming on the side. And what do we export to America? Nothing much.
Load shedding and
Right,
BEE,
right,
because as
right.
we've discussed on other podcasts, like they are now getting those. So
Yeah, that's true. But for Nelly Pendle, the real deal breaker is like tariffs on our steel. Like that's it.
mm, pretty much. And then
Okay.
and then she turned to that much loved thing, and this is where you can really see the common values. She turns to the climate change. And
Hmm.
Blinken says the US was committed to helping South Africa transition to a low carbon economy. Mate, we have a pretty low carbon economy. Like, we can't run our power stations. So, and because we can't run them, we can't manufacture anything. So,
Yeah.
actually, mate, like our carbon levels, nowhere near what yours is, mate.
Yeah. No, definitely not. If you look at Africa in terms of carbon emissions, I think it's like the lowest, the smallest circle in the huge pie chart. We like the smallest one
Mm,
by far. China and India and US far outstrip the entire continent of Africa, just by the way. But here's the problem,
mm,
fundamentally and truthfully, about this bullshit Secretary of State visit to South Africa. These people are trying to decarbonize South Africa's economy, right? South
mm,
Africa's economy is going to cost to decarbonize 3 trillion rand by 2050 or 6 trillion rand by 2065 or something like that. And that is a hell of a lot of money for American made or European made renewable energy bullshit firms to come in and
mm,
invest in here for us to decarbonize. The nuclear deal was worth 1 trillion rand and would have saved us all this bullshit. Right? Zuma's nuclear deal. So it was never about the money at all. So, because Praveen says the nuclear deal will bankrupt the country for 1 trillion rand, but we can try to decarbonize for 6 trillion rand over the course of
yep.
the next 30 years, and America is the one who's going to pay for it. Okay, and we don't expect any form of, I don't know, give or take from
Mm,
the Americans in this regard. Come now, come now. I personally am not a fan of South Africa aligning with American interests at all.
mm. I think it was interesting that following this meeting, they they described it as being urgent, And what they were now doing is they were creating a new Africa strategy, which, if you look at what Africa strategy means in reality, I think we kind of know what it means. It basically means the US have now looked at Africa and seen that it is becoming the largest trading partner of China and Russia, and that a lot of the African countries have sided with Russia and China for the oncoming global conflict for top position or world leader. And they're worried that because Africa has one of the fastest growing economies in the world, purely because of the size of the population boom that's expected
Yeah.
to occur here, we've covered that on other videos. They're worried that what they may see as being the future trading partner, that by the time they identify that actually they need to trade with these countries, a lot of them are going to be hostile towards American interests. So what they are now doing is looking to basically recolonize Africa, which, if you watch Matt Walsh's documentary on What Is a Woman, man, I didn't see a lot of common values there between like the American idea of like family and woman and men versus the African idea. Like there wasn't a lot of commonality there. So
No. No, there isn't. There isn't. I think America's trying to play catch up. I think America sees that like all the other trading partners are sort of like they are to the hilt with agreements and everything's working. So now like the last frontier is Africa, and they wish they started this like 20, 30 years earlier, if I'm honest
I
with
think
you.
it's
I
too
think
late.
I think it is far too late as well. And I think African generally, the average African is Christian, relatively conservative, pragmatic, hardworking. Like none of these things are the ideals of the American regime at the moment
No,
at all.
no,
And
no, they're
I
not.
can't, yeah, and I can't see why people, especially in Africa, and especially the leaders of Africa, can't see this as another attempt at sort of not colonization, but an attempt at influencing the way Africa conducts itself. But whenever an American says we're going to leave you alone to do what you want, that's when they bomb you. You know,
100%, man. 100%. 100%. So I know that some people will look at this and probably not like what we're saying, but the energy crisis is a great example. Take politics out of it. Just look to see what you think would be best for the country. What would be best for the country is to give the nuclear deals to the Russians and let them build mini reactors.
yeah.
The same type of mini reactors they have on nuclear submarines. In effect, they're cost effective. They're very efficient. They run for like hundreds of years. They're green, but they're made by the Russians. So that would be in the best interest of the country. Is it in the best interest of the neoliberal empire led by the US? No, not at all, because they lose even more of their sway on the continent, which I think is what the US is now seeing. So on the one hand, you got windmills and solar being pushed by the US. On the other hand, you got many reactors being pushed by the Russians. Mate, it's a clear winner in my eyes and in your eyes, but
It is, and and
remains to be
the
seen.
and the windmills cost more, and the debt is will just last longer,
Yeah,
and therefore then you in debt slavery once again, just like under the
100%.
the bad old days. So I think it's the only one thing about the ANC that I can support is this anti-American sentiment that they have. It's the only thing that they have going for them, where they actually do understand the Americans are not our friends and never were our friends at all.
Yeah.
And I don't think this visit will change that fact whatsoever.
Look, maybe if we had like a DeSantis led regime in the US, we'd be singing a different tune. But underneath the current regime,
Yeah.
I can't see that there's anything there that we want.
Nope. Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. Anyway, let us know your thoughts below in the comments. We're happy to read them, and we may even respond to some of them as well. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next
Take it easy.
time. Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.